Welcome back, geometry students. Thank you for joining me today. This video should be a rather quick one because it's on proofs. We're going to actually prove why some triangles are congruent today. And a lot of this I really feel like we need to be a little bit more hands-on in class on. So I'm going to give you one or two examples on the video to get you familiar with what we're going to do. But then I'm going to do the rest in class. So today's objective is that you're going to be able to prove two triangles congruent. And so here's an example. We are going to complete this proof. So, the first thing they give us two things. They said the angle MQP is congruent to angle NPQ. And if you look, this piece is right here. And so the reason for that is the given. Okay? And then the second thing they told us was that angle MPQ, this angle, is congruent to angle NQP, this angle. And as you can see, they put that right here. So that's also the given. Sometimes it's hard to determine if they're going to put all of this on one line and make it all one statement, and so therefore all one given, or if they're going to break it up like they did here and they put it as two different statements and two different givens. It's kind of trial and error. If you were writing it out yourself, I would divide them up, but sometimes you have to see, like, do you have enough steps or not? And I'll explain that more in class, okay? So what we're trying to do is prove that the triangles are congruent, that MQP is congruent to triangle NPQ. Well, what else do I know? Well, as we practiced in class, we know that QP is congruent to QP, which they gave us, number 3. QP is congruent to QP. How do we know that? Last class, I kept saying this phrase over and over again, by the reflexive property. The reflexive property says that QP is congruent to QP. So now we're able to prove that triangle MQP is congruent to triangle NPQ. How do we know that? Is it ASA, SAS, or SSS? Angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. So our reason, angle, side, angle. Let's do one more. Complete the proof. The first thing they tell us is that angle C is congruent to angle A. So angle A is congruent to angle C, and the reason for that, it's the given. They gave it to us. Okay? And then angle E is the midpoint of AC. Again, that's the given. So the third statement is that AE is congruent to CE. How do we know that to be true? How do I know that AE is congruent to CE? Well, back at statement 2, it said that E was the midpoint of AC. When something is the midpoint, it's cutting in half. So the reason is definition of midpoint. If we know it's the midpoint, then it's cutting it in half. It also states that angle AEB is congruent to angle CED. How do we know those two angles are congruent? Because we know that vertical angles are congruent. Vertical angles are congruent. Lastly, why am I now allowed to say that triangle AEB is congruent to triangle CED? Again, angle, side, angle. I know these two triangles are congruent because of the angle, side, angle theorem. So the back side, if you look, the proofs are open-ended, okay? Both of them. So we have to prove the whole thing. We're going to do this in class. And this is an example of, they give us 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know that it's 5 steps. And we're going to have to decide, is this all one step, or is it divided up into 2 separate steps? And that's what I mean by, it's kind of hard to determine how we know if they're combining it into one or separating it out. But hopefully as we do this together in class, together, we'll figure it out. Make sure you please write a summary at the bottom of what we're doing. We're learning to prove triangles congruent, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next class.